I felt slighted. I felt that, I have the experience from an academic perspective. I have the experience as an administrator. I have the experience as a sports person. So I've been around. But I don't have the PhD. And that's what drives the university. So with Chad frustration, I understand because he have gone to school to make a difference, to be a part of this change in sport, and yet you're not given the opportunity. And for this part, for about, you have been doing a sports program for over 10 years. And my question is, where are the students? What are they doing? What are the opportunities? So the reason why Chad is saying this is like, okay, what is UWI's role is in ensuring that students get the opportunities that's available out there? That is his question, And now that I'm at UWI and being a well-established university and able to open door because I'll say, okay, now I'm a lecturer at UWI, I put it upon myself to ensure that I go out there and try and understand why aren't the sports students getting the opportunities? Why they're not leading the organization? Why do we have the same faces with the same ideas? I know because I have taught, just about everybody who've been in sport, I've heard me speak. And they know that I'm very passionate with what I do. I am an evangelist for sport. Professor Coakley, I love that too. Because I think it's really a positive thing for me, personally for me. And when I interact with my student, I know it's something that they really have a passion for. So the frustration that Chad expressed, I understand, but we're young, and that is also something that I do understand as well. It's only 10 years, it's less than 10 years. The U.S. started sports program in 1966, that's 48 years from when they really look at sports as a business and started degree programs and stuff. That's 48 years old. And you're talking 10, that's right down the road. So we have a long way to go. But I could tell you, this is something that I have a passion for. And I truly believe that my students are able to do the right thing and change the way that sport is delivered in Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay, let me just...
I just want to say about you in answer to that. One of the things that I think that you need to do as somebody who has come out is that sport is not only in Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah, true. Why is it that you can't take that to one of the other islands and work with what you have done? They need you. Maybe right now Trinidad doesn't need you, but maybe when you go to another country and do what you can do, Trinidad will recognize that they have lost you and then will come back for you.
All right, let's just have a... Professor Blair, can I give you 30 seconds? Is that doing you justice? Because let me just make a point quickly as the chair. We are getting bogged down. We have only had 2 questions. And, it's not fair to some of the other people, and I want to make a quick comment about something.
Well, first of all, I would say that what my colleagues here have said, I totally agree with everything they've said, and it's very insightful. In terms of organizations, whether it's FIFA or whether it's the IOC or any of these organizations, they get old leadership and it becomes a stagnant organization without new ideas, and it's self-perpetuating. So when the comment is made about a bottom-up approach to many of these things, and I think on a national level, going out and educating our kids is probably the best thing that we can do and the most powerful thing we can do for a society. When kids have good teachers and good coaches and opportunities and inspiration, good things happen. And when I visit Jamaica and I see those little kids out on the track on Saturday and Sunday morning, I'm looking at the next Usain Bolt being developed out there on that track.
Okay, excellent. Now, before we take a question, I just want to make a couple quick points. As I understand it, the values of sport, as I understand it from the Olympic world, and I remind again, I'm here sharing as in this case, the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee. We have, I acknowledge, Keith Joseph, who is the Secretary General of the St. Vincent and Grenadines Olympic Committee. And I'm also delighted, as always, to acknowledge the presence of, because I think I played a key role in that happening, the first ever, since it was established in 1946, the first ever female Secretary General of the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee, Mrs. Annette Knott. And I say that for a particular reason, and why I focused on friendship, excellence, and respect. I understood the major rationale for holding this sport conference concerns this void in Caribbean sport research and scholarship, and the need to integrate and to have some discussions about this void. The aims and objectives of the conference are to contribute to knowledge and scholarship on sport in the Caribbean, to lay the groundwork for the establishment of integrated academic programs on sport in higher education, to facilitate knowledge exchange and sharing of experiences, and to review best practices of sport program in a higher education context, inclusive of benchmarking, and to develop a plan of action for future development of academic sports programs and recommendations towards the implementation. And I remind all of us of this, because as an administrator, we constantly come under attack, some of it legitimate, some of it unfortunately regrettable. And we could stand, and I could stand here and speak for sports administrators and say that, like a number of sectors in the Caribbean, we have the view that UE and UTT and all these higher education institutions has failed us. Because if we want certain information to make informed decisions, we have to go to international learning institutions where they don't have the context and the information that is relevant to the Caribbean. So I say that just to remind that if it is that there are issues and you all are passionate about it, then from a higher education perspective, there is a duty, obligation, and responsibility for you all to come up with the solutions. And if you feel that, and be creative and innovative. So what I'm saying is that we want collaboration, and this is what this very important sport conference is about. And I commend again the First Citizen Foundation and the UWI for doing it. And I would like, at the end of this conversation that we are having at 10, and when it ends sharply at 10:30 a.m., because I have another obligation, that we have moved forward in coming to some kind of idea and concept in the context of the aims of this conference. I can assure you, as far as the Olympic Committee is concerned, we look forward to receiving the necessary quality research, peer-reviewed information on which we can make informed decisions to move sport in the Caribbean forward. So on that note, I invite questions. Let it be questions, and let the responses be brief so that we can keep the exercise moving along. So, excuse me, forgive us, there's a
I want to say thanks to the esteemed panel for taking your time out, and the moderator. I am Kenyatta Cavill, Assistant Professor of Texas Southern University at HBCU, historically black college and university, which was born out of the vestiges of the institution of slavery. With this framework, again, I say thank you for this opportunity. My question is as follows. What is the model for this tertiary institutions in regards to university-level athletic competition? Is it in a form of recreation activity or similar to the American collegiate model which is a positive or negative based on your framework driven by capitalistic or the cotomization of student athletes. What are your thoughts on this? Is it right, and is it not? Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry that I'm always answering the question, but he's actually asking the questions that I've been deeply involved with. At one stage, I was president of the intercollegiate system in Jamaica, so I will take that question, Mr. Moderator. I think it started out as, maybe recreation in the minds of those who were competing. But again, as time went on, as the stronger the tertiary level institutions athletes got, and again, they very dependent on the sport, the competition would pick up. Now, what happens in the US at the collegiate level is what happens in Jamaica, and I'll be specific, at the high school level. If you are 98, the first thing you talk about is what school you went to, what high school you went to in Jamaica. It just goes with them their entire life, in the same way in which you talk about your collegiate, wherever you went to college, in the same way in which we in Jamaica. It doesn't necessarily happen in all the other parts of the Caribbean, I think in some. But the paradigm has shifted with collegiate competition because it has gotten very strong, particularly in sports like soccer, track and field, netball, and cricket to a lesser extent. And so that competition is very strong and very rife. A lot of the persons that are now trying to make national teams really come out of that system now because we now have the competition. We are a lot smaller as a Caribbean in the different countries, so it's very difficult to duplicate what happens in America. So we have to look at it. Some countries, it might be the club system that is strong, that they compete against, right, each other. But surely, but that does not bring in the money for sport. University of the West Indies have what they called, in the past they called it the inter-campus games. That was changed to the UE games because discussions started and we talked about. But I still think that they have yet to go because UE is very full of themselves. They are most important to themselves. And we are. I'm not a product of UE in terms of going to school, but I work there. And so you feel the thing. And Deputy Principal is here, and I'm sure she understands what I'm talking about. And so when they have these games, they think everybody is interested in sponsoring these games. And I'm very clear, no, they're not. Because why is someone interested in Cave Hill competing against St. Augustine against Mona? It has to be more. It has to be more. If you're trying to get dollars to come and do the things, that can't be because people are having fun. That could have been back in the day. The paradigm has shifted. What is the economic benefit? What is the business side to running a UE Games? Can UE, because of their dominance across the Caribbean, have a games that represents the university games, really put on by UE, that has all the other universities not participating? And when you have those games, you have seminars that's going to educate, right? You're going to enrich the persons that come, all of those students. You have 150 from each campus that comes together now. What do they do apart from having good party sessions and good? What are the other academic outcomes that can come from that? Where do we get our research from? And I'm passionate about this, and that's why I'm here, because the whole question of what you just said, what is the university doing about research? We talk about research in a general sense of the university, but we don't associate it with sports. I did my master's thesis and could not find research information in the Caribbean. And I did it on Caribbean stuff. We don't publish, right? And so even how we look at what we do for competition, tertiary level competition, if there is research, it would help to guide us and bind us and entwine us as a Caribbean, which is what I think we need to do, and UE has to lead in that.
All right, Rudolph.
I just have a question.
Professor
What's
Blair,
missing?
Hold on. we have 15 minutes. It's now, time flies when you're having fun, and we have to end at 10:30 sharp. So keep that in mind, and any further questions, let's try to get in a couple more questions.
No, I just wanted to add, it's important to highlight the program that UTT has as far as sports is concerned. UE is more recreational. I would say it's campus recreation as it compares to the US, all right, with some competition. However, UTT started with a more student-athlete approach. However, there's not, the infrastructure does not, yes, the infrastructure does not support the idea. So UTT has student athletes in selected sport, cricket, football, tennis. I mean, they pick sports randomly, but I mean, they may have their reasons. And from that, the sports or the team compete outside, well, compete in the club system. So there is no NCAA program, there's limited tertiary schools to compete against because most of the tertiary level institutions do not have sports team. It would more be on a recreational purposes. So it's really chalk and cheese when it comes to the US. It's totally recreation. Although we're looking